What is up, everybody? I'm Nick Wasubi, and today we're here to talk about harems. Anime harems. So I've watched a lot of animes in the past, and harem animes are my guilty pleasure. They're so bad, but so good. So good. Anyways, after watching all those animes, I've noticed this trend where the main character of those harem animes will have some of these traits, and if they have these traits, then there's a likelihood that the harem will succeed, or if he doesn't have them, they might fail. Today we're going to talk about 4 main topics. First, a brief history of harem anime. Second, traits of the male protagonists in functional harems, dysfunctional harems, and finally we're going to analyze a harem that is taking place in real life on the interwebs. Then, afterwards, you can decide whether you should start your own anime harem. Let's jump into it. Okay, when I say brief history, I mean very, very brief. Let's put 2 minutes on the clock. Here we go. Tenji Muyo was the first harem anime ever created, and it follows the story of this guy who suddenly gets his life invaded by a bunch of alien girls. Boom, harem. Second harem anime that we're going to talk about that I think is more interesting, which is one of my favorites, is Love Hina by Ken Akamatsu. The story follows this kid, Keitaro, who's a student who's trying to get into Tokyo University, fails multiple times. His mom cuts him off, so in order to save money, he tries to move to his grandma's place because she owns an inn. Little does he know, once he gets there, that inn actually got changed into an all-girls dormitory 2 years ago. His grandma goes on vacation. He needs to suddenly take over and manage the entire girls' dormitory. Suddenly, he's surrounded by 6 girls. Boom, another harem. The thing that's interesting about this anime is it pushes forward the anime genre because it introduces a bunch of tropes that are very apparent throughout a lot of different past anime harems. You have the trope of the bikini beach episode, hot springs episode, the first date episode. You also have the female protagonist that's very angry and likes to punch the male protagonist, send him flying across the screen. All of that I attribute to Love Hina. Woo! And we made it. 2 minutes? A-okay. So the traits of functional harem animes. First, you have falling into the situation. So in a lot of these animes, the main character, who usually will have a past of not having any girls in his life, will suddenly, through whatever circumstances, find himself surrounded by a bunch of girls. You can see this in Love Hina that I mentioned earlier. Keitaro suddenly is forced into managing the dormitory and being surrounded by 6 girls when in the past he's never even taken a picture with a girl. This is important because the character doesn't manipulate the situation, he kind of falls into it organically, and there's an innocence about it. The story progresses very naturally. Second point, common language. So within these animes, there needs to be a common language that the characters can communicate through. This usually is in the form of an occupation or a situation. So for example, Kirito in Sword Art Online meets all of the girls through a virtual online MMORPG. Soma meets all these girls under the context of cooking. And this is important because, for example, he has a childhood friend named Mayumi. I don't think Mayumi is actually a contender for the harem, unlike Nikumi, Erina, or Tarokoro, because she's not a chef. She enjoys Soma's cooking, but at the end of the day, she doesn't really speak the language of food and cooking and just can't speak their lingo. Next point, the one fated girl. So within these animes, there's usually one fated girl that the story kind of pushes or drops hints. This can take the form of a childhood promise or like a lock and key from childhood. This can also be the 2 main superpower people that are trying to fight against each other. This is important because you have to remember that animes are stories and the story has to end. The main character can't just keep expanding his harem and just let it go on forever. So the fated girl is the one girl that he ends up with, and the story ends because the saga is closed once he chooses that one girl to be with. Last point, and the most important point, is good-hearted guy. So the main character has to be a good-hearted guy and have good intentions, because that's the main reason these girls fall in love with him in the first place. They all have these small little interactions where they realize, oh, he's actually such a good-hearted guy. And this goes along with the last trait that I mentioned, which is the one fated girl, because the other girls accept that at the end he chooses the fated girl because he's such a good guy and he doesn't have any ill intent. He's not trying to manipulate the situation. The other girls are okay because it kind of seems like it's destiny that the guy and the one fated girl end up together. Alright, so now traits of dysfunctional harems. And I've noticed this trend of this subgenre of anime harems that is a parody on anime harems, where the main character is a weeb himself and goes out to create his own little anime harem in a new world. First trait, forcing the situation. So a lot of times these main characters will go out into this new world and try to start their own little harem, and then because they're rushing so fast to try to get this harem together, they end up finding really weird girls. Kazuma, I'm looking at you. Kazuma from Konosuba ends up finding 3 girls. First one is completely useless. Second one fires one spell and then is completely useless. Third one is a pervert and masochist who's also completely useless. He quickly realizes that he's the most sane person in the entire party, and he's like, oh my god, I need to make better life decisions. And that's because he tried to force the situation and manipulate things to set it up for his own self-interest. The next trait is overly conscious, and Sora from No Game No Life is a great example of this. He's constantly trying to maintain his harem, make sure everybody's on good terms. And that's not the best strategy, because if you are constantly thinking about the harem, you're probably gonna misstep and do something that's gonna bite you in the ass and have the whole thing explode and implode anyways. So the third trait is active expansion, and a lot of these characters in these animes try to continually add new girls to the harem, and there's something inherently wrong about that strategy, because think about it, you already have girls in your harem and you're trying to add more girls in your harem. These girls are gonna feel inadequate, not loved, not enough, and jealousy is gonna arise, and this right here is a recipe for disaster. Just no, don't do it. Let it happen organically. So now we're gonna talk about the most exciting part of this video, which I'm sure you guys have already kind of guessed where it's going. The real life harem, and that is Toast's harem. Okay, super brief history. Disguised Toast, famous Hearthstone streamer, got really big because his face got revealed on stream. Then he started playing Hearthstone games with female streamers. Then moved into offline TV house with more female streamers. Then he met these 3 girls who are also female streamers. The internet exploded. Toast's harem meme was born. Woo! Okay, now we're gonna use the traits I mentioned earlier to analyze Toast's harem. Falling into the situation, I don't think that Toast actually manipulated the situation to create his own little harem. I think that Twitch chat is an unstoppable force that can will any meme into existence, and they love shipping people. You get a ship, you get a ship, you get a ship. Everybody gets a ship! Common language. All the girls that are in Toast's harem are all Twitch streamers, and I think that's important because Twitch is such a unique community that you can't really explain the language to someone who isn't part of it. Like, try explaining Monka S or PogChamp. They're gonna be like, Nani? Are? Omae wa shindeiru? The next trait is one that is probably the most heated and debated topic. The one faded girl. I am going to be smart and not say anything because I know how unstoppable a force Twitch chat can be. With that being said, resist. I do think that Toast is a good guy at heart. I think the harem would not work out if he wasn't, and I think that's kind of why this meme has continued to grow and gone through so many reiterations within the past month or so. However, he is overly conscious of the harem. He talks about it in almost every stream, and he does talk about active expansion. He talked about adding a Taiwanese girl when he was in Taiwan. Yes, Taiwan are very cute, but is Toast joking? Not joking? I don't know. You tell me. Let me know if you think the traits that I mentioned before apply to Toast. Is he going in the right direction? Who do you think is the one faded girl? But I will leave you with one book recommendation, which is The Truth by Neil Strauss. Neil Strauss is a New York Times bestselling author, and this book is his journey into asking the question of whether or not monogamy is for him. And so he goes through all different kinds of relationships, ranging from polyamorous, monogamy, one partner, open relationships, open coupledom, anything you can think of, he's tried. He's even gone to therapy through this book. I will publicly state that I don't think you should start your own anime harem. This video was made for the entertainment of you, but if you try to manipulate the situation, it's probably gonna explode in your face. Man, I'm looking at you. Don't get scared. Again, I'm Nick with Subi. Hope you guys enjoyed. Osamatsu, and I'll see you guys in the next one.